Hello everybody and welcome back to the Mock Report. We are going into week 7. We are going to try a different format. We're going to jump right into the games, get talking on the fantasy news that you want to hear because we've been basically focusing on DFS. I'm Brandon.
Hello, and I am Matt, aka Mr. Six.
Yeah, I guess we can throw our tags in there. I'm
Don't
ProStacks
tell
Brandon.
anybody.
ProStacks Brandon if you want to challenge me to a head-to-head on DraftKings, but hopefully not for like a grand or anything because I'm not that rich.
Well, we did okay last week. We did okay. We both made a little bit of money. Wasn't the millie, but we're well on our way. Looking forward to a nice week 7 coming up. I'm pretty excited. How about you?
I am very excited. I was actually hoping that we could put out a video being like, I show the date where we said our goal is to win the millie, and then we're like, we won the millie in the first week after that we said we were going to win the millie.
Pack it up, boys. It's already in the bag. You know what frustrates me, though? You know what really grinds my gears? Is they stop putting the Sunday game, the Sunday night game, into the main slate. So now there's no way for us to be like, holy shit, we're going to win, and we're reverse engineering anybody that's nearby. We're in the lead by 30 points or something like that. We can call the boys over and start filming like an after party. There's none of that because everybody's sweating it out at 4 o'clock.
This is true. This is true.
Bullshit.
But again, it was the Sunday nighter that burned me, I think, last year when I had a good play. But anyways, let's jump.
Sunday nighter could just as easily help you, my friend.
Yes, it could. Let's jump right into the games. We're going to go with the Thursday nighter, which is Oakland and Kansas City. Who are you looking at in this game? Who are some of your plays?
You know, if I was confident in Derek Carr's back, I would probably say this was going to be a shootout. I am not confident that he's healthy. I think he's hurting. I think he's one hit away from being taken out of the game, potentially for the season. I don't like Oakland in this. I don't like the way that they've been throwing the ball. I don't like the way their receivers have been catching the ball or not catching the ball. In the case of Amari Cooper, what's going on with that? I think Kansas is probably going to dominate this game. They've got a great matchup, especially versus the pass. I really think they're going to dominate, and this one's going to be over by the second quarter.
Do you have a specific, I don't know, fantasy play that you want to say, or a couple people that you would plug into your lineups if you were playing a off slate, or a Thursday to Monday slate?
So people have been chirping Alex Smith for a number of years now, and I said it a few weeks ago. He's got Pat Mahomes breathing down his back. He's stepped up his game. He's throwing the ball downfield a little bit more. He's got great accuracy. He's always been an efficient guy. But finally, he's starting to sling the ball around a little bit and
run.
See the fruits of his labor. Well, he's always run. You know, he's quietly been one of the top 5 guys in rushing when it comes to the quarterback position, and nobody really notices that about him because he's so slick about it. It's like 5 or 6 yards here, and then he slides. He's not really trying to do any, springing into the end zone like Cam Newton, but he's quietly amassing points. He's been playing really efficiently, and I love seeing the fact that he's slinging the ball downfield. He's got a great matchup. It's a little bit better of a matchup for running back, and it's a little bit better for pass-catching running back. So in that regard, I think I'm going to say Kareem Hunt has another one of his dominating days. He's been good, and especially from a real-life standpoint, he's been an excellent pickup for Kansas City. I think they really knocked it out of the park with that draft selection. But the last couple weeks, from a fantasy standpoint, he has not really struggled, but been very average. He's put up 100 yards, a couple catches. He's been kept out of the end zone for the most part compared to his first few games, but I think he really turns it up in this one.
That could be his norm, though. If you kind of look at the first few weeks where Kareem Hunt is the be-all, end-all, where he would snap off like a 70-yard touchdown. Like, he had those big plays in the first 3 weeks, and everybody was going bonkers, and it was amazing. He's a great back, but we could be seeing him plateau back to, or at least come back down to reality and just kind of sit at where he might be. But I'm not saying that he's not capable of putting up those numbers consistently. I'm just saying that chances are, with the way that people adjust their defenses, as coaches adjust their defenses, they might be able to kind of contain some of those plays a little bit more, which I think is also what kind of opened it up for Kelsey. And my pick for the Kansas City side anyways, I've been riding this tight end pick like for weeks now, and he just keeps performing regardless of the fact that he almost cracked an egg in his head.
Okay, you know, it's interesting to see people's takes on Kareem Hunt. I mean, it's always exciting when a guy like Kareem Hunt or when a guy like Leonard Fournette or Ezekiel Elliott really just comes into the league and explodes for tons of points. It's funny you should say plateau because the guy's been averaging over 100 total yards. Actually, I think he's been averaging over 100 rushing yards per game. That's unheard of production in terms of real life.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
He's been absolutely extraordinary. So coming back down to earth is really just sort of saying like he didn't score a touchdown this week, which is it's a tough sell. I think he is going to score a touchdown against Oakland. I think he might even put up 2 again, and we'll see one of those like 25, 30-point games from him. In terms of Kelce, like this guy's a beast. Zeus is going to ball out every single game. A couple teams have been able to shut him down, which is what concerns me a little bit about Oakland. They've been probably about middle of the league when it comes to points scored against versus tight ends and being able to shut down top wide receivers. And in this sense, with Kansas City, I don't know what's really going on with Tyreek Hill, but he's not the guy that was playing last year. So Kelce, for better or worse, really is the top receiver on that team. So they're going to have to focus on shutting Kelce down. You might see Tyreek Hill show up too because of that, but I really don't know what's going on with this guy. He's not putting up those exciting plays, despite the fact that his Kansas City team is putting up those huge plays. They've had a 60 or I think a 50-yard or longer play in 6 or 7 consecutive games now, which is just ridiculous.
On the Oakland side of things, I can actually see somebody like a Marshawn Lynch maybe having a game.
You know, I keep saying that to myself. I hope, like, for his sake, I hope so.
Or, again, you're going to go with Crabtree because that left side is actually pretty weak for Kansas City. So if Carr is able to throw it, it will be at Crabtree, I'm going to say. It's definitely not going to be at Cooper because they're more strong defending that side. But, yeah, I'd say if you're going to play anyone from the Raiders, it would probably be a Crabtree or a Lynch because of Derek Carr's health with his back. You might be able to see a little bit more running back play than we're used to. I didn't see it last game, but, you know, what are you going to do?
I'm really worried about Oakland. I'm really worried about Derek Carr's back. I'm really worried about that offense because it really does flow through Derek Carr and his ability to perform and be accurate and move around inside of the pocket. We've saw it with Tony Romo. This is not an easy injury to come back from. It's not an easy injury to play through. And
no, you might end up with Jim Nantz in a box somewhere talking about football on live TV.
Oh, but he's so good at it.
I like it. I love it. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, don't worry. You know what? I don't think Oakland has a good game. I think they really get dominated in this game. You can say Crabtree's the guy, but in all respect, he's sort of this season become the number 1 wide receiver. So, I mean, you're up against a guy like Marcus Peters, who traditionally has shadowed the top receiver on a team. Now, Reed might choose not to do that in this game. He might just let the defense line up against whoever's on Marcus Peters' side. But in all honesty, if it were me making the decisions, until Amari Cooper remembers how to play football, I treat Crabtree is the number 1 receiver, and he's going to get the shadow coverage. So this might actually be a game where you fade Crabtree, because if most people are going to assume that he's going to be the guy getting the targets and he gets the extra attention for that, even though I don't like Oakland in this spot, this might be, where Cooper wakes up.
Cooper's week, where he goes off, and if you don't have him, you lose.
Yeah, like he's probably at this point going to have really minimal ownership because people are not confident in his ability. Let me just go out and say I'm not confident in him right now either. But I think he's probably not going to get shadowed, at least not the whole game. I don't think he'll get that kind of attention. So like this could be an awesome spot for him to bounce back and really just show up again. He's never lacked for talent. He's an excellent wide receiver. I think he's probably just shot his confidence at this point, and he just needs to get a couple good games under his belt. Maybe this is the one. I'm definitely not going to have high exposure to him, but I might throw him into a roster.
Okay, moving on to Jacksonville, the Jags versus the Colts. I don't know. My first impressions on this is that the Colts are screwed.
Yep.
I don't think that they're going to be able to do anything against this defense, and if they are, it might be, I don't know, T.Y. going off or something, or some weird Dante Moncrief, right?
Yeah, well, it's tough, right? Jacksonville Jaguars are, really good defenses might come at you with the pass rush. They might otherwise have, lockdown coverage. This is a team that's got it all. They've got some of the best pass rushing abilities of all 32 of the franchises. And then they've got some stellar cornerbacks, some young, huge, big play guys that are making interceptions. They're keeping opposing wide receivers to minimal points. I really don't think, especially if Andrew Luck does not make an appearance this week, and it doesn't really seem like he's going to. If Brissett, God bless him, he's done a great job filling in. If Brissett has to do the start against this defense, I think he's screwed too. He started out hot last week. It looked good for the first 2 quarters, and then he disappeared, and that was it. Jacksonville's not going to lay off. And to make matters worse, Indy's defense hasn't been stopping anybody. So even Blake Bortles might look good in this game. So I really don't think Indianapolis has a hope or a prayer. I said that about the Giants last week too, though.
Yeah, so did I. But Indy's offensive line is Swiss cheese. Like, they're just going to run right through it.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly. T.Y., T.Y.'s a really impressive guy. He disappeared last game too, which is a little concerning because the matchup for him was not that bad. It's going to be a lot worse this week. Maybe he shows up, maybe he gets a few extra looks. He makes some big plays. T.Y.'s always one catch away from a 60-yard touchdown, right? Like, he's just that kind of guy. Again, I'm not very confident in him having a great game this game. And I really am not confident in Indianapolis having any chance whatsoever of staying in this game for very long, which makes me feel like, once again, Leonard Fournette, who is dominating touches in Jacksonville, is going to go off. Not only is he going to have a very easy defense to run against, his team is going to be winning. They're going to run out the clock. It's a run-first offense. He's going to get his touches. He's going to be probably north of 28 total touches. I see him just having a field day again.
Are you worried about his ankle?
Nah, not really. This kid's been hurting his feet for a long time. If he's not worried, I'm not worried. He'll play.
I was thinking the same thing. And if you're not going to go the route of Fournette, he's pretty much going to be a lock. He's been a lock every week so far. Yeah. Like, he's been putting up.
Ownership's going to be picking up on him too.
Oh yeah, he's going to be pretty damn high, even in like massive GPPs. He's definitely a lock in cash. If you don't have him on your roster, you're probably doing it wrong. But definitely. Another person that you might want to look at this week too is what's his face, Marquise Lee.
What's his face? I love what's his face.
Yeah. If you're gonna put a wideout from this game in there, like if you're not putting in Hilton as kind of like a flyer, you're gonna throw in Lee, and just hope he gets like a red zone look.
Yeah, and I mean, Lee's a guy that can work the field all over. He runs great routes. He's got good hands. Who says USC wide receivers can't catch the ball? He does okay. Like I said, this is the kind of game that, it could make Blake Bortles look like an actual starter. He's probably going to throw for a couple touchdowns. He's probably going to be good for 300 yards. Generally speaking, first of all, let me just make a disclaimer. I do not start Blake Bortles in very many tournaments or rosters.
Because he throws at helmets.
When I do, it's usually because I want to capitalize on garbage time when he's 30 points down and nobody really cares what he does, and he ends up making 15, 20 points in the last quarter and a half. That's not going to be the case for this game. I think he's going to pretty much have a field day against Indianapolis. It really just comes down to play calling. Like he might not throw the ball much in the second half if they're up. And it might just be a moment for Fournette and Ivory to just run out the game. Or he might take some shots and just try to prove to the league that he still believes that he can play football.
Well, last year, he had a couple weeks where it's like, if you didn't know Blake Bortles this week, you're screwed. But
for sure. He's even had some really good weeks this week. And, for what it's worth, I mean, he might not be very good in real life, but he's been a serviceable, if not average or above average quarterback in fantasy the last few years. So could honestly be a pretty good game for him. He's priced pretty decently too across, I think, all the sites. So yeah, it might be a sneaky bet to get him into rosters here.
And I guess since we're talking about Bortles, we can just make a quick mention. If you're struggling to find a QB to replace Aaron Rodgers in your fantasy league, you might want to take a shot at Bortles because most likely he's available. If not, you'd probably look at Tyrod, but he could be one of those flyers that you pick up, and he's on a winning team, so you never know what can happen.
You know, don't discount Brett Hundley either. I think a lot of people are going to overlook the fact that this guy's been with this franchise for a few years now. He knows the offense very well. And what it comes down to more than anything else is he's got some phenomenal weapons around him.
Yes, he does.
He's got a great team. So I think, I mean, if you're really hurting, Brett Hundley's going to be available this week. I don't know how many people are really going to be hunting him out. It's not like he's going to be highly sought after. So yeah, but you might want to pick him up.
We can get to that when we get to the Green Bay game. We're going to move on to Tennessee versus Cleveland. We watched Marcus Mariota in the Monday Nighter, who sat in the pocket pretty much the entire game. And this is all because of the hamstring health. And I don't know if this short week is going to provide enough time for him to heal, but he's playing the Browns. And if he's healthy,
he's playing the Browns.
Look out!
But really, how healthy do you have to be?
But he's playing the Browns with a pretty damn good tight end, and we all know how the Browns fare against tight ends. So jam Delanie Walker in all your lineups. I'm gonna say he's my tight end of the week.
Agreed. I think Delanie, if he's gonna have any chance of having a big game this year, it's this game. Mariota's still not going to be 100%, so he's probably going to spend a lot more time passing than he does scrambling. He looked a little uncomfortable doing that the first quarter or two the other night, but he fell into a good rhythm. He proved that he can be a pocket passer, and I think he's going to throw for multiple touchdowns. I think he's going to be well north of 300 yards. They're probably going to split the running back load between DeMarco and Henry, but for sure, you want to get a piece of Delanie Walker. Tight ends have been destroying Cleveland all season, and this is a really good tight end with a good quarterback in a spot where he can dominate.
And looking at the past couple weeks where people were really jamming Matthews in their lineups and he wasn't paying off, this could be a great week for Matthews to be played, especially since you said that Mariota might be one of those more pocket passers and not the scramble-type quarterback. He could see a lot of targets if he's throwing, and he might not be a bad play, especially against the Browns.
Definitely. It's going to be pivotal who he lines up against. But I think that both Decker and Matthews, and to some extent I think even Taylor, has the potential to have a big game here as well. But I think this is probably going to be Delanie's game, and I think we're both on the same page when it comes to that.
Yeah, if I were to force you to pick a Cleveland Brown, who would you pick? Are you picking Hulk Hogan or what?
I'm not picking a Cleveland Brown. Pass.
Not even Ricardo Louis?
Nope. No Cleveland Brown. Hard pass.
Big fade. So moving on to Miami versus the New York Jets. This is a game that I kind of struggle with because Miami's bad. New York's supposed to be bad, but isn't all that bad. I actually kind of put the Jets above Miami in this game, and I'd say that if you're going to target anybody in this, it's going to be Curse. You're going to put in Curse. You're going to have a nice wide out there.
Fair.
They're pretty... I wouldn't say that... Miami doesn't have the greatest secondary, so I can see them taking advantage of that. And we have seen McCown have some games. I know back like last year I played him in a couple of rosters, and he was like my budget quarterback that ended up scoring like 30 points. So
yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting game. It's going to be a battle between two of the dogs of the league. The Jets playing better than a lot of people thought. Miami playing worse than a lot of people thought. Interestingly enough, you've got Miami up against the Jets. They're a 3-point favorite. I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but they're a 3-point favorite. And they're up against a defense that is struggling to defend the run. Now, they've been average against the pass, but they're struggling pretty hard against the run. Conversely, you've got the Jets, who are up against a Miami team that has been very decent against the run and are struggling mightily against the pass. So if that's the case, I would go where the data leads me. I would say Jay Ajayi is probably going to have a big game. And then, yeah, Jermaine Kearse or even Robbie Anderson, potentially Curley, but I feel like Curley's probably not going to get enough looks. So I would say, Kearse or Robbie Anderson are going to light it up. And Jay Ajayi looks like he's in a pretty good spot right now.
Jay Ajayi, matchup-wise, he does look like he's in a good spot. ASJ is always a play, too, when it comes to the Jets. He's, their biggest producer. Having a tight end that can actually...
You know what I hate about him, though?
What, he fumbles in the end zone?
No, and that was a controversial call and one that I'm not exactly supporting. And Paul said, mostly because it cost me a lot of money, but... With ASJ, he catches 10 passes for 40 yards. I'm not even sure how you do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let the guy at least go another 4 or 5 yards downfield before he turns to catch the pass, because you're peppering him with targets. And
he's essentially a running back.
Even running backs are able to get yards after the catch, though. This guy is just run 3 yards, turn, catch, drop, and that's it. And I'm just hoping he can get a little bit more yards, because it's nice if you're in PPR, he's putting up that kind of catches, that kind of targets. That's great, but it's got to go somewhere. Thankfully, he's been scoring touchdowns.
The totals on this game are pretty low. They're only projected, or Vegas has them at 38.5 for over. So,
yeah. But I feel like that could actually be a little misleading, because I think this game could definitely go over.
It's just what it opens at. It the line could move in the next couple days too.
Oh, for sure. It won't be a drastic change, but definitely I think it'll go over. And it's all going to depend on game script for the most part. If Ajayi can still be in the game enough that they're not playing from a deep margin, and they can keep giving him touches, he's getting a plentiful amount of touches. The guy's getting 20 plus carries a game, plus 4 or 5 catches. That's a hardcore workload for any running back, and I love the fact that they've made him their feature back and they're just feeding him. So he's got a great spot. If he can continue running, he's going to dominate. He's going to rack up the yards. He's probably going to get a touchdown. Love it if he gets 2. And then it'll come down to McCown, who's been extremely efficient as a passer through the first 6 weeks. He's got a great percentage for completions. If Miami can't defend the pass, and they haven't done a good job of it lately, so if McCown can continue to push the ball downfield, this will be a game where you're just scoring back and forth for most of the day. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go out and say both teams score over 20 points.
Yeah. I'm not going to take that juice. So basically, if people haven't noticed, we do have...
Both teams score over 23 points.
Okay, I'll say that they score under 23. Write that down. For those of you that don't know, we make side bets. We jot them down. We have scoreboards, if you can see them, based on our picks, our plays, and our side bets. And currently, Matt's kicking my ass. Anyways, on to the next train wreck game. We're going to look in kind of the same situation that we were looking at Cleveland. We have the Baltimore Ravens, whose quarterback can't throw. It's brutal. And they're against the Minnesota Vikings, who are playing pretty damn good this year. I'm going to put them in my top, 8 teams in the league as far as power rankings. I don't know where I want to shuffle them in. But the way that defense is playing, good luck, Flacco.
It's been solid. Xavier Rhodes is a good quarterback. They've been able to handle their own against the pass. They have been giving up some big plays to running backs, and they've been exploitable by tight ends. That said, Baltimore's bad, man. Like, Flacco's confidence is shot. He's playing, arguably at a bottom. Like, he's like arguably the worst quarterback in the league right now. And when you look at the names that are starting right now, like, you've got to work hard to get to the bottom of that list. And he is just playing so bad.
Congratulations, you're behind Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Brian Hoyer.
Oh man, like Brian Hoyer, like he got benched for incompetence, and I'm still feeling he's better than Joe Flacco.
The third stringer out of New England is now the starting quarterback for Indy. Like,
it's bad.
Did you see him last week when he kind of slipped a tackle and cocked his arm back, and he was aiming the opposite direction at his own end zone?
I missed that.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. See if you can find the replay. He spins out of a tackle, and he's right ready to throw, and he's facing backwards.
He would have scored a touchdown that way.
Anyways, just like I did last week, I'm going to hammer on Thielen here, but also Rudolph. Like, it's kind of like the same people that you're hammering on this offense. I don't know what Diggs's status is. I don't know if you've read up on it at all.
I think he's okay. I know he's a little banged up, but for the most part, I think he's good. You want to be careful. To start the season, Baltimore's defense looked really strong. They racked up a bunch of sacks, and their secondary was playing really good. Now, they've started to slip a little bit in the last few weeks, but for the most part, they have played solid ball on the defensive side of things. So I don't really trust Case Keenum. I know he keeps showing up. I don't really think he's that good, especially if Diggs isn't around. Thielen might be good. He works largely in the slot. So he's on the outside a lot these days. But
yeah.
I don't know, like, I really love Minnesota defense in this game because Flacco is just
for sure
terrible. But I think this is one of those really slow-paced, boring games. Except, like, if McKinnon is good, if he's solid and he's ready to play, Baltimore has been giving up pretty good chunk plays to running backs, and this is a guy that catches a lot of passes. And he's been featured the last 2 games, so he could have another good day. But I don't know. This looks like a defensive grind fest to me.
Jerick McKinnon, like, he was in the top 5 of running backs last week, and he was pretty hyped up throughout the week before.
Priced nicely too.
Oh yeah, like that's why his price point, and then he was in the top 5 of running backs fantasy points wise last week. Yep. So, I mean, why not hammer him in there? If you're gonna pick a Baltimore player, like, can you even trust Wallace anymore? Or are you just picking Macklin and hoping he goes off for one? Because I was all over Ben Watson last week, but he had a red zone target, but Flacco throws into the ground, so you can't really do anything.
Yeah, as long as Flacco's playing as poorly as he is right now, I really don't trust any of those wide receivers, because even on a good week, they're boom or bust, right? Like, Wallace is not a consistent producer. He's a guy that can go for 100 yards and a touchdown, but it really depends on what he catches and what he doesn't catch. Macklin seems to be like a perennial 660, maybe a touchdown kind of guy. So his ceiling isn't even all that big because he hasn't had many of those huge games. I don't think he's going to have many huge games with Baltimore. If I had to choose anybody on the Baltimore team, I think they're playing from behind. It's probably going to go to Buck Allen. He catches a lot of passes. And Minnesota, I mean, they're a good defense, so they can probably slow down the running game. But being that Buck Allen is one of those slippery guys that can get out into the flat and catch passes, I think he's probably going to get a bunch of points. I don't really like him as like a top 5 running back or anything like that. And price-wise, he's actually priced probably about where he should be, maybe a little expensive depending on the matchup. But it's interesting that you mentioned Kyle Rudolph, because versus tight ends, Baltimore has been abysmal. So they're almost bad or worse than Cleveland.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, so Rudolph, again, has a great opportunity here to produce, but he didn't do it last week, and he had a great opportunity as well. So I think it comes back to Keenum. I don't think he's good, and it's going to be a real crapshoot to see who scores points in this game. I don't like it. Not going to watch it.
Would you like Keenum better on Baltimore? instead of Flacco?
No. I don't like either of these guys. Like, this is one of those games where like Justin Tucker wins people fantasy weeks like with his 28 points and like 19 field goals.
Okay, so moving on to Carolina versus Chicago. Another, like, these games are going to be rough this week.
There's some really boring games, like really boring divisional games, and then there's some like just fucking shit shows that are going to happen.
Yeah, like I don't even know what game I'm going to target yet. I guess it's all going to be kind of determined by some of the injuries and stuff. But I'm like, obviously, I don't think too many people are going to be picking the Bears.
The Bears. I mean, they're at home, so they always got a chance, right?
Yeah, they're at home, but they also won on the road, so.
Yeah. I'd be a lot more confident in the Bears if Trubisky, you know, he's been okay. I get it. He's a rookie coming into the league, gets to start midseason. But when I watch his play, like, it's super average. He's not really connecting well with his wide receivers. Now, you know, put a little asterisk beside that because look at the guys he's throwing to. I mean, there's nobody left on that roster. But he himself has not been playing that well. The defense has kind of held him into games for the last few weeks. I think for the most part, the defense won him the game last week. He's not playing well enough to be able to keep up with Cam Newton, who is heating up. So beware of Cam. I think definitely Carolina wins this game. I don't really see an upside. I mean, like, home dogs always have a chance. A lot of sharp players will tell you to bet on home dogs that are not in blowouts. But I think Carolina probably takes this game. I think Kelvin Benjamin has a fantastic matchup against Kyle Fuller.
McCaffrey.
McCaffrey's coming into his own, right? Like, Chicago's about mid-pack when it comes to defending the run. And McCaffrey's just a slippery guy. I haven't really seen him going off like he was in college. Like, this was a guy in college that, you know, you thought somebody was controlling him with a PS4 controller. And you haven't really seen that. I don't know if he's a little timid or a little starstruck or something being in the NFL. But if this kid really plays up to his potential, yeah, he could go off. Chicago isn't like the best spot for him. It's not the greatest matchup, but it's not bad either. Like, it's very run of the mill, right in the middle. So even John Stewart could have some play here, but I think Kelvin Benjamin's probably the biggest.
Yeah, I like Benjamin too.
Yeah, he's gonna have one of these weeks. He's gonna have like a vintage, like 2-touchdown, 100-yard game.
Cam has been like top 5 quarterbacks every week that he hasn't been absolute trash. So you can almost always count on Cam now, especially against a team like the Bears. If you're gonna flip it and go to the Bears side, though, I'm gonna be playing someone like Howard because they are running the ball a lot, and Zach Miller again, your budget tight end. He could get you a touchdown. Tight ends are always easy looks for quarterbacks, especially when you're checking down.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to count Jordan out of this, but it's not the best defense either. Right? Carolina's pretty solid, and if you're way down in the game, how many touches do you really get? I don't know.
They were down last week, and they threw. I mean, they didn't throw. They ran it a lot more than I thought that you would be.
But they were never really like down a considerable margin of points. Like, Cam Newton and Carolina Panthers could conceivably going into the half be up like 20 plus points, like 3 scores. And if you're looking at 3 scores, you're probably going to start turning to Tariq Cohen to see if you can move the ball a little faster. I don't know. Jordan Howard's good back. He's a solid guy, but he really relies on those touches. And if he's not getting them, then he can't produce. So I don't know. It's not a good run defense. Like, he doesn't have a premium matchup, and he's probably going to be playing from behind. So, I mean, it'll be touchdown dependent. It'll be game flow dependent. And Cam Newton, he's heating up. So I'd be worried. I think if he's got a great matchup with Kelvin Benjamin this week, there's touchdowns that are going to be scored. What I like seeing, too, is they're letting him run a little bit, too. He had 7 carries, something like 70 yards against Philadelphia. That was nice to see.
So Buffalo and Tampa? Buffalo's pretty banged up. I mean, if you're gonna pick anybody, it's either Tyrod or it's gonna be McCoy, because they don't even have Clay.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this is because you love McCoy, right? Like we both love McCoy, but I mean he's all they have, and he catches a lot of passes too. So I feel like McCoy's probably gonna be the feature of this offense. They have nobody else to throw to. Clay's out, so
you could pick up their defense, especially if Winston's banged up and not in the game.
Yeah.
Even if he is, because he's a pick machine.
Fitzpatrick played like a decent game of football last
He was in the
week.
top 5.
Yeah, he was solid. So, I mean, Buffalo has held opponents to 17 points or less all season. They're top 3 in terms of points against scored. So Tampa's probably, especially without Winston, Tampa's not going to light it up. But I don't think Buffalo lights it up either. I mean, versus the past, Tampa's been awful. Bernard Hargreaves has completely regressed. But then I have to think, like, who do they really throw the ball to in Buffalo? And not coming up with a lot of strong names.
No, Jordan Matthews gone. Like,
yeah, you could say, fuck, I don't even know, man. Like, you could say that, at some point, who's that kid? Zay Jones?
Yeah, Zay Jones.
He's going to show up, but he hasn't. And I don't think this is the week. If anybody on Buffalo is going to have a game, it'll be McCoy.
Or their defense.
Yeah, their defense is probably a good pick. Their defense is always going to be a good pick. They've played really, really good ball this year. Yeah, maybe McCoy, but it is a solid defense. So.
Tampa, I'm going steady hand Mike Evans or Doug Martin.
Yeah, me, I'm a big fan of Dougie Martin. Again, matchup-wise, probably about average, middle of the pack. If they find themselves in a big lead, he probably gets a lot of run. He's looked really spry, I want to say. Like, he's got some bounce in his step this year. He's been moving the ball pretty effectively. But Buffalo's good defense. They're going to be ready to match him. You can play Mike Evans just purely because of targets alone, and we saw AJ Green really light up Buffalo. He didn't step back. He didn't slow down. Evans is a little bit different of a wide receiver. AJ's got speed. AJ's got elite route running. Mike Evans tends to rely a little bit more on his size. But he is still a very good route runner. He's got excellent hands. So he could definitely have a good game. He gets plenty of looks.
He has shown that he's like almost matchup proof too. So
I would say he's almost shown that he's matchup proof.
Yeah.
But he has been shut out of some games.
Okay, moving on to the Rams versus the Cardinals. This has the potential of a high-scoring game.
I think so. Rams, I don't know if many people know this, but Rams have been one of the highest scoring teams in the league.
Yeah.
What?
Especially with Gurley. I've been loving the Cooper Kupp play. I don't know. Goff seems to go to Cooper Kupp in the slot, so.
Well, he's a security blanket, right? He's working the slot. He's typically open. He's a good route runner. I don't want to say he's not an exciting guy because he is. He makes some pretty fantastic catches, but it's very vanilla in the routes that he has to run. He's going to be there. He's going to be ready, and it's not like he's going to be a big outside beat the cornerback for an 80-yard touchdown kind of guy. This is very much a Danny Amendola type, catch and drop kind of receiver. But that said, I mean, this is a game that has the potential to go over 50 total points. I think Arizona's heating up. Adrian Peterson, welcome back, man. It was nice seeing him last year. Last week, yeah, it was phenomenal. I know I rostered him in a bunch of my lineups. It's not going to be $3,400 this week, but this is a good game. I mean, Arizona's been terrible against the pass outside of Patrick Peterson, and now Patrick Peterson's banged up, so we don't even know, if he's really going to be there either. So the Rams and Goff are probably going to be able to move the ball pretty effectively. And then
which means that Robert Woods could have some space here. You might actually find some room in the roster for Robert Woods.
I really like Robert Woods in this. He's pretty much become the wide receiver one on this team when you would have thought that Sammy Watkins would be that guy. But a lot of people thought that Sammy Watkins and his lack of production or his sort of like hit or miss production was due to the play calling and just the style of play in Buffalo. But it's translated into the Rams as well. And
no, he's flaky like that. It's translated to the fact where now Sammy Watkins goes off or he gets nothing. So yeah, since we got interrupted, you were talking about Watkins, and I made fun of him saying that he's always going to be spotty. So, as you were saying, unless you don't remember and it doesn't really matter.
Well, I thought Sammy Watkins was a good receiver coming into the league, and he's certainly had some really exceptional games. He's certainly shown that he's got the long speed, he's got the catching ability, he's got, I would say slightly above average route running ability. I don't think he's one of those elite guys yet, and that might be what's holding him back. But I thought the biggest reason that he was, hurting or not producing to his potential in Buffalo was just, the style of play that Buffalo plays, and it's translated into, more of the same now that he's playing in LA. So it's a little confounding to me because I thought he was in a great spot with a young coach, a young quarterback. They're throwing the ball around. He just can't seem to get open or get those looks. So he hasn't developed the rapport with Goff. He hasn't, earned that target share, and he's not putting up those points. So this week, I think he's certainly got a chance. But I don't know, man. Like, he's really got to prove himself at this point. I would love to see him go off. I'd love to see him play up to his potential, and not just because I have him in the Dynasty League either.
As far as Arizona and their wideouts, I think Fitzgerald's going to take a step back in this one. I think the Rams have a pretty underrated pass defense. They're pretty mid-pack, but they're fairly decent, and I think that Fitzgerald's going to have some problems, and I think that John Brown's going to have a week. If any of the receivers are going to be, it's going to be John Brown, not Jerron Brown. And Carson Palmer throws like almost as much as anybody in the league. In fact, I think he might be leading.
They pass the ball a lot, that's for sure.
So between John Brown and Ellington, if you want to go there, but I don't know with AP on the scene, like how you want to treat that. But we did have back-to-back weeks where Ellington had 9 receptions, no touchdowns, but good for PPR.
This is a team that we saw Carlos Hyde absolutely dominate a few weeks ago. So I think Adrian Peterson could probably follow up his performance with another really solid game. Arizona's definitely going to hang around in this game with them. I don't know. Larry Fitzgerald, he's a world-class wide receiver. He's Hall of Fame bound. You can never really say he's not going to be a factor in a game because he'll burn you every chance he gets. That said, the Rams are a solid defense. They've held opposing wide receivers to at least average to minimal gains. But then again, we saw it in weeks past. They have the potential to just open up the floodgates, and this just turns into a shootout. These are two teams that are among the highest scoring in the league through 7 or through 6 weeks. So it's hard to say which way this will go. I don't really see it being a defensive grind fest. Somebody's going to have a big game. I like Adrian Peterson again. I think he's got a renewed look, right? Like he looks like he's enjoying the game all of a sudden. I think when they signed him, I guess they traded for him, right? But I think he would have definitely had to have been within that conversation. I think Arians definitely would have reached out to him and said, hey, look, like we want to feature you. We know you're not happy in New Orleans. We want to give you 20 touches a game. We need a running back. What do you think? And I think Adrian Peterson is on board. And he's going to get red zone touches. He's going to get goal line touches. Like as good as David Johnson was in the pass game, he had games where he scored 3 rushing touchdowns in a game, and that could easily happen. Even Chris Johnson did it too. Like there was a number of games in the last few years where Chris Johnson had like 2-3 rushing touchdowns in a game. So Peterson's going to be a solid guy for the rest of the season. I like it.
So moving on to AP's former team, New Orleans is playing the banged-up Green Bay Packers. Is Sean Payton kicking himself for not using AP more? And how do you see this game going? Because I don't know, like Green Bay without, like we were talking about it earlier, Green Bay without Rodgers is definitely going to take a step back, but they do have those weapons. And well, New Orleans hasn't been the best team this year.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that about New Orleans. I mean, they're a team that traditionally plays better at home. The home and away splits for Drew Brees are pretty well documented. He's much better playing in the Superdome than he is playing literally anywhere else. Last game was his first game back to the Superdome in like 3 weeks or something. He's only played 2 home games, and it wasn't a very good one. Traditionally, he's been really good coming out of a bye playing a home game, and he put up kind of a dud. I didn't love it. But against Green Bay, like Green Bay's defense is not very good. They've been poor against the rush. They've been poor against the pass, given up a lot of points. I think even though the fact that Drew Brees is on the road, he's still going to have a very confident showing. And then New Orleans defense, despite the fact that they put up 30-something points last week, how did that happen? And the 0.2% of people that actually rostered them. Even though they scored that many points, they're not that good of a defense either. So Brett Hundley and Green Bay playing at home have a chance to hang out in this game, but he's going to have to play a lot better than he did in Minnesota.
So obviously, Green Bay, you have the usual suspects. You got Devontae Adams, you got Nelson, you got Cobb. And then on the New Orleans side, I'm going to say that you're probably going to be looking more towards Ingram and Kamara, considering that Green Bay kind of sucks against running backs, and then Coleman and Fleener, I'd say, more than Thomas. And like I'd like to think that Thomas is going to have a week coming off the week that he had last week, because he was so hyped up. He was supposed to light them up, and he did nothing. So
I don't know what happened there.
He could have a comeback week, but I think you might see 2 weeks in a row for that. And I don't know. I can just see Fleener finally having a game. I don't know if they insert Snead and if he actually does anything, but
you and Snead, eh?
I just keep mentioning him because I keep seeing him
Snead.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Detroit's an underrated defense, so they've been able to play the pass pretty solidly. I'm a little surprised that Michael Thomas had as bad a game as he did. I'm not surprised that they were able to run with him, because Detroit has been a decent secondary this year. Green Bay hasn't. So Green Bay's been pretty poor. I think Michael Thomas, he'll have at least his floor game, which is like he gets 8 targets, 6 catches, 80 yards, something like that, right? So he'll be decent. I don't know how much of a blowout this is. Again, playing in Green Bay, Drew Brees on the road. He hasn't been amazing on the road so far this year. His home away splits traditionally are pretty bad. I think this is a running back game. Green Bay's not good against running backs, so Mark Ingram, he lit it up last week. He's got extra touches with AP going. Alvin Kamara has been pretty sensational the last few weeks too. I think New Orleans plays it a little safe, and if they're leading, they're going to run the ball anyways. But on the other side of the field too, New Orleans isn't stopping the run. So you've got Brett Hundley coming in, he's experienced with the offense, but he's not really been a starter. I think they're going to try to protect him by running the ball a lot more than they normally do. So Aaron Jones, Ty Montgomery, they're going to step up. They're going to get a lot of touches. If they can hang out with New Orleans and Drew Brees and sort of keep it reasonably close, I think they continue to run the ball. New Orleans can't stop anybody. So this could be just a run fest. I like the running backs in this matchup, but I also like the wide receivers for New Orleans.
I'd like to point out that Detroit had both their wideouts, Jones Jr. And Tate, were in the top 5 of wideouts for the week.
Yeah, and some big rosters had both of those guys. So New Orleans, they're not a good defense, like I said. My concern is how good can Brett Hundley be? He's familiar with the offense. He's got great weapons. but he's not Aaron Rodgers. So playing at home will help. I think Devontae Adams is probably one of the names to watch. You definitely see Jordy Nelson disappear when Aaron Rodgers leaves the field. But again, like if I'm trusting anybody in this game on both sides of the field, I'm going with the running backs.
Okay, moving on to a divisional matchup between the Steelers and the Bengals. These games are...
I've got a bet for you on this game.
Okay.
Less than 25 total points scored.
I'm going to go over, yeah, for sure. I'll take that. I'm going to go over, and I'm going to say that AJ torches for 2 touchdowns.
You know what? I'm going to change it to 26 points. So it'll because I think it's going to be 19-7. So I'm going to go less than 27 points. Will you still take it?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. So AJ's going to torch for two touchdowns. This is what I see happening.
Not a chance.
It's finally going to flip in the Bengals' favor, this matchup. I've been watching this matchup like so many times, and it just never works out for them. This is their week. I've
been sleeping through these matchups for years.
Yeah. How about Mixon? Does he have a chance in this game?
Not really. I mean, overall, Pittsburgh defense has been solid across the board. They've been holding teams to 19 points or less, something like that. Against the run, they've been a little worse than against the pass, but they've been really strong against the pass. So I don't think anybody on Cincinnati really dominates. AJ Green will get the looks. I feel like he'll be like 8 catches, 80 yards, 8 catches, 90 yards, something like that. Like, it won't be a bad day for him, but it won't be amazing. Andy Dalton throws a few more picks, probably a pick 6 or something like that. But Ben Roethlisberger at home, again, against a tough defense. They've been really good. Le'Veon Bell probably, I don't know, like, it's so weird with Pittsburgh, like how bad Ben Roethlisberger can be and how good his offense can be around him.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
like when if you told me, and yeah, I'm a little bitter about last week, but if you told me that Antonio Brown would have north of 30 points or high 20s, and Le'Veon Bell would be north of 30 points and be one of the top scorers on the week, I would say, yeah, for sure, then Ben Roethlisberger must be like the top quarterback. But he put up 12 points. Like, he didn't do anything. He threw the ball around like crazy, but he didn't do anything. So, I mean, until he figures out how to play football again, I can't trust him. I think they're going to win this game because they're at home, but I think they're going to do it on the back of like 17 points. I don't think it's going to be crazy.
I think Brown's going to go off and AJ's going to go off. We're going to have a shootout. That's what I'm going to predict.
Those corners in Cincy are playing decent ball, man. And now, like, Antonio Brown is matchup proof. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's nobody that can stop the man.
No.
But even if he puts up 10 catches and 150 yards, it doesn't mean they score any points, as we've seen in weeks past. And the same thing with Le'Veon Bell. If he can get 30 total touches, put up like 36 points, but the score of the game doesn't actually reflect that. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I don't think Cincy scores very much, though.
Like I said, AJ for 2.
I'll take that as a side bet, too.
All right. Let's do it. Why not?
Done. He doesn't score. You know what? I'll even give it to you. He doesn't score a touchdown.
You're going to play that. So if he gets a touchdown, I'm going to take it?
He won't score a touchdown.
All right, so let's move on to the 49ers versus the Cowboys. Now, what do you see in this matchup?
Oh, now brown cow. The San Francisco 49ers are a really bad team.
Zeke's in. Zeke is in. As of today, he's been granted Week 7. He's been in. Yep. He's been out. He's been in. It's like Brett Favre retiring. Ezekiel Elliott will play.
And this will be the narrative all season long. I can't even wrap my head around the legal logistics of what they're doing, but they're getting him on the field, and he's got a good spot here. I think he gets touches no matter what, but they're going to probably be leading early. They're up against, I never know how to say this kid. It's CJ Beathard, whatever. he's going to get his bell rung, and it's going to be ugly for San Francisco this week. Zeke's going to eat. I mean, it's not the best matchup in the world for him, but it's a good matchup. And we saw Todd Gurley absolutely dominate San Francisco. So I think Zeke has a great week here.
Bryant's going to have a great week. Cole Beasley's going to have a great week. Dak Prescott's going to have a great week.
I would probably trust Prescott more than any of the others because as good as he's played, Bryant has sort of underperformed expectations thus far.
Cole Beasley, though.
Beasley's been solid, yeah. Like, I love the kid.
That hair. That hair.
Like, anybody could go off on Dallas this week. I don't really want to predict who beyond Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott. Like, one of those receivers will probably be very, very good.
If I'm picking...
it could be anybody. It could be anybody because San Francisco's not stopping anybody.
If I'm picking anyone on San Fran, it's Kittle. Just not going to play Kittle.
Now, like, in his one big game, it all happened on the final drive, right?
Yeah.
And that's coming from a guy who, like, I like Kittle even, like, before the season started.
That doesn't stop me from, if I need to play a budget tight end and I've exhausted everything else, I might play Kittle. Or even if I end up with a, big RB, big wideouts, and needed to flex a cheap tight end that has some upside, I'm gonna play Kittle.
Okay.
Let's move.
That. San Fran has been pretty bad, Dallas has been pretty bad against tight ends. To be honest, they've been pretty bad against everybody. They've got a bad defense. That being said, they're against a really bad team. So I don't know how much San Francisco can capitalize against Dallas in this game, despite the fact that they're playing at home. Carlos Hyde or Matt Breida might have a good game here, but they have to be able to at least hang in the game long enough for them to get the touches. Dallas has been giving up tons of yards, tons of points to running backs. They've also been giving up tons of points to pass-catching running backs. So that sort of plays into a Kyle Shanahan offense where he loves to get zone run and do a lot of passing to his backs, but they got to stay in this game to be relevant. Hyde could have one of those games where he scores more passing yards than rushing yards, but if anybody on San Fran is a play, for me, it's Carlos Hyde.
Not even Pierre Garçon.
It's too hard to... What's his name? Beat hard? Better? I don't like him. Don't trust him.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, sure. Why not Garçon? Hey, what do you think, yardage-wise? What does he get?
Garçon? 36.
Oh, I'll take more for that. I think it'll be more like 70, but I don't know. I think San Fran gets dominated.
Yeah.
Just dominated.
Onto a team that we all believed was going to get dominated, considering all three of their wideouts broke their ankles.
Essentially, the world thought this was going to happen.
And Denver being one of the top defenses in the league, like you're in, you're out. Coming into a Monday nighter, I guess the Giants just didn't want to be embarrassed. They're like, yeah, guess what? We're gonna hang around. Okay, so I said this last week. After all the injuries hit and everything, that there were two people that you might want to pick up on waivers or put on your fantasy rosters in leagues from this team if you had to. One was Roger Lewis, which didn't do shit last week. But
no.
Evan Ingram,
yes,
that is a definite play. He is definitely Eli Manning's favorite target.
And he will be going forward.
He had a great game. He was again, top 5 tight ends in week 6. So moving on to this matchup, they got the Seahawks. So now you got the Seahawks and the Giants. Can they repeat going into their bye week?
No, they cannot. You've got a Seattle defense that might not be the Legion of Boom that we all knew and loved a few years ago, but definitely they have a strong secondary, and they've been able to shut down tight ends all year long. So as good as Evan Ingram was in the first quarter, or sorry, the first half last game, and I mean Houston adjusted and was able to. Denver adjusted and was able to slow him down. I don't see this happening. Like, you're not going to work the middle of the field against Seattle. It's just too dangerous. Ingram's going to get destroyed. Maybe he'll break his ankle this game. I don't know. But I really, really don't like the look of this game for Eli Manning and the New York Giants. I think it was a one-off win for them last week. They managed to sort of game their way through it, and the defense kept them active. Seattle might not destroy them. Like, Seattle struggled to score points this year too, but Giants are not going to win. I don't like anybody on their roster. Nobody. 0 people.
I would love to find out, by the way, if we're on the topic of ankles, if Gordon Hayward watched that Giants game, because the first NBA game. I
started drinking after I watched that video, man.
That was bad. Like, and he just scooched his way out of there. Took it like a champ. I've seen people scream in pain. He just kind of did the wincing and holding his leg.
Gordon Hayward, man. Shit.
Oh yeah. Cheers. Oh, there you
go. Yeah.
Even on back to the game. Even on Seattle's side, I don't really see too many. Like, the Giants' D is fairly good. So
hold up. The Giants' D was fairly good last game. There's a difference.
This is true. So looking at this, my only plays here are going to be your Doug Baldwin, and I'm going to say that this could be a week where Russell Wilson actually has a game.
Yeah, for sure he could, especially if Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie is not back. I don't know why Trevor Siemian couldn't light up the Giants' D the way everybody kind of anticipated that he would. They are very thin right now. They don't have their top. Janoris Jenkins is probably their top corner, but Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie is their top slot corner. Baldwin likes lining up in the slot. I mean, I like Wilson in this game. I think he's probably going to have a strong one. Of all of the quarterbacks in the league, interestingly enough, his home and away splits are the most favorable. He actually plays pretty good outside of Seattle. So he's playing in New York this week. He's got a great matchup. I think he's probably going to have one of his vintage, like 4 touchdown, 300-yard rush for a touchdown kind of games. It could go to anybody though. Like, I don't know necessarily that it'll be Baldwin that blows up. Typically, however, when Wilson does blow up, it correlates well with Baldwin is just like, he seems to funnel the ball to him when he's feeling it. But it's weird because it's like, I don't know, he feels it or he doesn't feel it. And there's times when you think that they're going to go off and they really don't.
Can we just touch on the fact that, like, I still do not understand how, like, I know there was some injuries, but how does Jimmy Graham go from being the premier tight end? It was like him and Gronk, like side by side, coming from the Saints, going to Seattle with, like, they had a great team. Like, they were competitive for years and years. And then he comes into this team, and he's an absolute dud. Like, he puts up goose eggs more than any of. I think he's probably one of the worst scoring tight ends in the league of starters.
I wouldn't go that far. If you look at sort of the last 16 games that he's played, he's probably been, top 60 percentile in terms of, production. He's definitely not the Jimmy Graham that he was in New Orleans, but
he hasn't made it into top 5 at all.
At the end of last year, he was really solid. This year, he's been a little weak, but their whole offense has been, pretty weak outside of a game or two. Play calling, maybe. I mean, this is not New Orleans. They featured Jimmy Graham in New Orleans. Like, they fed him the ball, they lined him up all over the formation, and they're just not really doing that in Seattle. And I don't think anybody ever really expected them to do that in Seattle. That said, he's probably underperforming, that's for sure. He's got a fairly decent matchup, so he could be one of those guys that goes off against the Giants. They're not defending tight ends all that well. That said, this is not New Orleans. This is not a Sean Payton feed Jimmy Graham the ball offense. Any time that Wilson has really produced heavily, it's been on the back of Doug Baldwin. So if Wilson does go off, it'll probably be Baldwin that's the better play. But it could be anybody. Like the Giants, if you look at the entire year, have not really stopped anybody. Janoris Jenkins has been able to slow guys down, but that's been it. So I think Wilson's actually a great play this week. I'd stack him with Baldwin. I'd stack him with Graham. Might even stack him with both. You could put Lockett or Richardson in there too, because those guys can go long.
That's about it.
But yeah, like I don't see the Giants doing much, and then it's hard to trust the Seattle run game. Like I don't know who's going to get carries. I don't know if they're going to be good or not. Like who's that? J.D. McKissick or something like that. Maybe he's the safest bet. I don't know.
So we'll move off that game now, and the team that got embarrassed on Monday night, the Denver Broncos versus the Chargers. Do they get embarrassed twice in a row?
No. I think there's going to be less expectations. I mean, everybody and their mother were betting on Denver last game, and nobody gave Eli and the Giants a chance in this.
Do you want a side bet before we get into this?
Okay, what's your side bet?
Here's a side bet. This is going to be on Denver and so the Broncos and Chargers.
Yep.
I'm going to say over 6 sacks for the Chargers.
Oh, wow. Yep, I'll take that.
Their pass rush is insane right now.
It's been good, but I'll take that. Under 6.
All right.
I'll take it. And I think Denver's got a chance to really run the ball here. So C.J. Anderson's been solid all season. Struggled a little bit against the Giants. A lot of people thought
didn't do anything. Like I had him in my roster.
Yeah, he really didn't do much. But I think he could probably bounce back in this game, provided that they can stay in it. So Simeon has been good all year. I mean, he had a real dud. And I wouldn't even say it was a dud. He still threw for considerable amount of yards, and he had a touchdown.
Is Sanders back?
I haven't seen any updates, to be honest. It doesn't really matter. You got Demaryius Thomas. He's going to be able to work the field pretty good. Chargers defense has been solid, but not amazing. So, I mean, the quality of Demaryius Thomas leads me to believe that he'll still be able to produce. And then on the back of C.J. Anderson running in a great matchup, I think they hang with the Chargers. I don't think they win the game. I think the Chargers are probably going to take this one at home.
I want to see what the score is.
You know what? I would say it's more likely that Phillip Rivers takes 6 sacks, not Trevor Siemian.
So Shark Money's coming in on under for this game, which is, I was just about to say that this is going to be a defensive battle. This is going to be a low-scoring game. This opened up at 43.5 for game total. It's right now. It's right now down to 41.5.
I might take the under at 43.5. I don't know. It's going to be right there, though.
Oh, I think it's going to drop even more because...
It's going to be like a 24-17, 24-20.
Like I said, we're going to be over 6 sacks. It's going to be a defensive battle, and you're going to... Denver's going to wonder how the hell... they're not going to know how to stop Ingram. His pass rush is insane.
Yeah, it's good. I don't think they get 6 sacks, though. You do. I think Phillip Rivers is going to get sacked 6 times. If you want to say it, you go Von Miller. Mr. Von Miller has something to say, sir.
As far as one of my plays is probably going to be a Chargers D, just for the sacks, and I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
I love going at this with you, man, because one of my plays is going to be Denver D. I think Mr. Phillip Rivers turns it over a hell of a lot more than Mr. Game Managing Simeon.
Yeah, usually you play defense for turnovers and picks and stuff like that. I'm going to play on the sacks this week.
Play the sacks, eh?
Yeah.
Kenny G action over here.
Other than that, I mean, Melvin Gordon went off last week.
Yeah, he did. 2 weeks in a row now.
The 2 weeks that I've faded him because I remember when we were talking preseason, one of my themes that I wanted to address in our videos that never happened is Melvin Gordon going to be Melvin Gordon this year? And I was leaning on the side of yes. So for the first 3 weeks, I was heavy on him. Then for week 4 and 5, he did nothing.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, he did stuff on 5, but 3 and 4 he did absolutely nothing, and I kind of felt jaded. Stopped picking him, and he went off. So
yeah, no, he's been really good. Over the last 16 games, he's been north of 1,600 total yards, 12 total touchdowns. The guy is a legit beast. I mean, coming out of Wisconsin, I told you this guy is one of my favorite running backs. I loved him. I think he's a great running back. I think Denver's amazing against the run. I think they're a solid defense. I think he's going to probably struggle to produce the way he has the last 2 games. That said, he catches a lot of passes too. So whenever the Chargers are down or whenever they need to, spread things out a little bit, they put him into the flat, or they make short little passes to him, dink and dunk kind of thing. I don't think he has a game like he has the last 2 weeks. Like, he's not going to be north of 30 points, but he'll still produce. Like, he's a strong competitor. He's a solid running back. The odd time Denver's actually given up, considerable points to running backs, but I don't think this is the game. The best matchup for the Chargers in this is actually against the tight end position. So I would say that, maybe Antonio Gates has his,
They are the most productive tight end quarterback combos. So most people say Brady and Gronk, but it is Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates.
Yeah, and I mean, that connection is going to be over pretty soon. Gates.
Yeah, it's now going to be Henry.
I keep thinking he's going to retire last year or the year before that, but he just keeps coming back. Hunter Henry is, taking over that position in this offense. At this point, I think they're really just getting him some extra stats. They're getting him into Canton. They're getting him ahead in a lot of the lists. I don't think they're actually doing that, but he's really just hanging out for this season. But this could be a game where Antonio Gates actually scores 2 touchdowns again, like he has in the past. That said, it could be also a game where Hunter Henry scores 2 touchdowns. But if there's an exploitable matchup for the Chargers in this game, it's the tight end position. I think they work it.
Okay, so moving on from one of the lower scoring games, we're going to move on to the projected highest scoring game of the week, which is Atlanta and New England,
rematch.
New England has been in shootouts the entire season. Like, their defense has been terrible. Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Brutal.
when you look at Atlanta, who's got weapons in the running back position, you could say both running backs, so Freeman and Coleman.
Definitely.
You could say Jones goes off because he didn't do shit last week. Gabriel, if Sanu's out, which I'm pretty sure he's still going to be out, and Austin Hooper, who's actually seeing some targets. He could be another weapon in this game, but then again, who isn't a weapon against the Patriots this year?
Yeah, I mean, this is a grudge match. This is a rematch. This is Super Bowl 2.0. Atlanta's got a huge chip on their shoulder coming into this. They're playing in Foxborough, which is a little harder for them. That said, they want to win this game. They have something to prove here. They need to show that they're not a bust. I'm a big believer that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Julio's been complaining about his lack of targets. Dan Quinn saying he needs to get the ball to Julio more. I think despite the fact that Belichick will try to scheme to shut Julio down, this guy's matchup proof. They're going to use him to win this game. He's going to go off big. The running backs could go off big. This is a great opportunity for Devonta Freeman. Coleman's an excellent fade, so I think Freeman will have a lot of ownership.
Coleman's a pivot on
I'm playing everybody in Atlanta this week. Everybody in Atlanta.
As far as New England, who are you gonna play? The usual suspects. You got Brady, Gronk. Maybe throw Cooks in there. He might catch a deep ball.
Throw Cooks in there, sure. I might even play both sides of this engagement. Like you said, this is the highest implied points on the slate. It's going to be a shootout. Both the defenses. I mean, Atlanta's defense is decent. They haven't been as good as I think they probably should be. But this is going to be a shootout game, and I'm really looking forward to watching it.
With high totals, though, you have high ownership. Sorry to interrupt, but like, so you might want to play this game in a couple rosters, but you might also want to make a roster that completely fades this game and hope that it turns into one of those defensive duds, which I know it won't, but that's like when you take a long shot and you take a $1 GPP and you throw in a roster that fades this completely, you might fade some of the ownership and maybe catch an edge in a lower... Like, I'm not going to put them in the millie. I'm not going to fade them in the millie. There's no way you can fade this game.
I think you got to have a piece of this game. You can pick and choose where, but fading it, I don't know if I go that far. Atlanta has an elite matchup. Like, they've got the best matchup across the board of any team, any offense going into Week 7. And then New England Patriots, again, Atlanta's struggled against the run. They've been average against the pass. So New England Patriots are going to be able to put up points. They're going to be able to move the ball. They haven't looked quite as good as I think they could. But, like, you definitely want a piece of this game. And you want any piece of this game. Like, it could go all over the place. Brandon Cooks could go off. Gronk's going to get points. Devonta Freeman's going to get points. Julio Jones is going to get points. Both the quarterbacks are worth playing. Like, I'm all over this game.
Here's your biggest issue with this game. It's not in the millie. It's the Sunday Nighter.
That's okay. I'm going to be in this game. That sucks, though. I didn't realize that.
I just realized it now.
I have to work on Sunday afternoon, so I'm going to be able to watch this game. I love that.
I just realized it now. I'm actually double-checking to make sure that the millie doesn't actually have that game anymore.
Hasn't been all year so far.
I know it hasn't. That's I find it weird.
I wonder why they did that.
Who the hell knows? So we can go to the Monday Nighter now, which is our Eagles and the Redskins. I can't wait to see how this one turns out.
Fly, Eagles, fly, baby.
I know. Look, I'm wearing literally Eagles colors right here on my tie.
Nice.
So, I don't know. So, one person that is kind of popping in my head, even though that the Eagles are pretty much turned into a three-headed monster at running back, Wendell Smallwood's coming back. Like Clement had a great game, and actually LeGarrette Blount is PFF's most elusive running back. He's getting the most, like, I think it's yards per carry. His elusive rating is through the roof. So
he's been solid. He's been very solid. Yards after contact.
So I think for sure LeGarrette Blount's a play. But if you wanted to pivot off him in this game, you could pick somebody like Wendell Smallwood, who's coming back off injury, even though Clement had a good game.
So I don't really like the Philly running backs. It's too much of a rotation. Nobody knows who's going to get the touches, how many. Blount probably is the safest bet because he would get those red zone touches and he might get the goal line scores. But that said, like, outside of one game, he hasn't been solid. No running back on Philly has been all that solid. They actually have a tough matchup. Washington's defense has been playing very good. The pass rush is good, but like this is one of those games where it's like an unstoppable force against an immovable object. You've got a great Philly offense against a really strong Washington defense. You've got an excellent Philly O-line against a strong Washington pass rush. I don't know. Like, I think it's going to be a good game to watch. It's going to be a fun game to watch. Fantasy purposes, I think this is one of those game managing positions for Carson Wentz. He's been a really solid quarterback for like 70% of the games this year so far. I think this is probably a situation where he's like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, scrambles a little bit, middle of the pack, not sensational. Washington's going to hang. Like, this is going to be a good game to watch because, I mean, they're essentially playing for the division right here. This is going to be the division matchup all year.
For sure.
I like it. It's hard to predict who's going to do well on Washington, too, because their big guys have struggled. Crowder's disappeared. You got Doxton emerging. Terrell Pryor hasn't worked out for the most part. And really, the only guy on Washington that's been carrying them is Chris Thompson. And I keep telling myself, there's no way he can have another 60-yard play. Like, he just keeps putting up these huge plays every single game, and at some point it's got to stop, right? But it doesn't seem to be. Philly's defense isn't excellent; they're not great, but they're not awful either. Against the run, they're very average. I'd say probably 60th percentile or something like that. Chris Thompson's going to get used widely. He'll probably have another productive game. But interestingly enough, the very best matchup for Philadelphia Eagles is the tight end position as well. Mr. Zach Ertz averaging like 7 catches and 70 yards and half a touchdown per game. He's on a roll lately, been lighting it up. I love Zach Ertz in this game.
Well, on the Washington side, do you have anyone that you would play?
Well, yeah, I said it, man. Chris Thompson just keeps defying the odds, right? Like, he just keeps defying the odds.
Kirk Cousins, too, has been in top 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah, so if you look at the data, Kirk Cousins has often been hit or miss through September, and then once he hits October, he starts to light it up. So now that we're into October, you've seen him really start to turn it on. I don't know if he just needs to settle into the offense or get a feel for football again after being off for a while, but he tends to dominate October. He's averaging over 2 touchdowns and 300 yards a game. So I like him in this game. The Philly secondary isn't great. The safety position is strong, but cornerback certainly isn't. So Washington's going to be able to put up points. I don't know who it goes to. I actually really feel Josh Doctson in this game. I know they're going to get him extra touches, and he's scored touchdowns every time they've thrown to him. So like he's averaging like 60% of his catches are touchdowns, which is only 3, but still. I like Josh Doctson on Washington. I think they're going to get him more involved. And I love Zach Ertz in this game, man. Zach Ertz, I'm all over that.
Well, that'll basically do it for our slate talk and our fantasy talk for this week. You guys can stay tuned to our channel for our picks video and then some quick hits on some positional players that we want to pick up or that we would say are definite locks for this week. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Check us out on Twitter. It's been a slice. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.